write it down whenever it comes up a little bit, so.
Yeah.
There's that also.
For instance, it would take up most space.
Are you able to admit that one?
Who else is waiting?
One more.
Oh, Nicholas.
Okay, are we in?
Yeah, no one else is waiting.
All right, seeing that it is 6:30. I would like to call the Town of Belgrade Board of Select Persons, November 1, 2022. Meeting to order. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this point, the board wishes to honor Rick with a moment of silence. We stand. So in this moment, we wish to acknowledge the passing of our friend and colleague, Richard Danville. Sorry. Rick served a total of 19 years on the Board of Select Persons, held stints on the Transfer and Recycling Committee and the Budget Committee. He was also a member of the Belgrade Fire and Rescue Department since 1970, serving as North Belgrade Assistant Chief from 1979 to 1986 and Fire Chief from 1987 to 2000. He was first elected to the Select Board in 2002 and continued to be reelected to this position for multiple terms. Belgradians know a good thing when they have it. He brought an infinite knowledge of roads, construction, snow plowing, fire department ins and outs, and the unique and varied history of Belgrade to this board. His guidance and wisdom will be sorely missed. We thank you, Ricky, for your decades of service to the town of Belgrade. We thank your family for sharing you with us. It's easy now, Ricky, we've got it from here. Thank you. All right, so the first part of our meeting is public comment. Is there anyone who has something that they'd like to bring before the board's attention that may not be covered on this evening's agenda? All right, seeing none. I have something I'd like to bring forward. Flag etiquette states that only the governor of the state or the president can order that the flags be held at half-staff. There have been precedents set by other communities that when a member of the community who has been in service passes away, that the community can decide amongst themselves to fly the flag at half-staff. So I would like to propose that we fly the flags in the town of Belgrade at half-staff from tomorrow until the last day of November. So I'd like to make that motion. It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara? Yes. Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Thank you, Corey. Okay. Whew. All right, next up, we will start the meeting with old business. And the first item on our agenda is the sand and salt agreement. I did ask Mary to print out the original sand and salt agreement from 2020. And one of the questions that we had was how we signed an agreement in 2020. That was a 3-year agreement, but it ended the end of 2022. And as I was thinking about it, I remember Dan had a hand in this, and we were trying to get all of our contracts onto the fiscal year. So it doesn't make a ton of sense for us to have one from 2020 that ends in 2022, but that was the reasoning on it. So if we push this agreement forward, it would need to end 2025, so December 31st, 2025. So I remember that was the reason, because I thought it was wonky, but then I remembered why we did the wonky. So according to the original agreement that was dated September of 2020, the agreement was for a 3-year period, fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2021, and fiscal year 2022. In attachment A, this agreement may be extended for an additional 3 years upon a mutual written agreement from both parties. So we have the Town of Belgrade's Road Sand and Salt Agreement Extension. Is David Stevens here? No. So should we table this again?
I think that he's okay in moving it forward.
I'd approve it, send it to him, and if he has a problem, he just won't sign it, and they'll come back to us.
Sounds good to me. Does anyone have any other discussion about it? Have there been any concerns that we should be aware of?
And are we keeping the price at $10 a cubic yard? This doesn't have a price in it, so.
I'm not sure Lorna was making contact.
David is supposed to provide updated figures, but he hasn't done that yet.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion then that we table the sand and salt agreement extension until the next meeting and see if we can get updated figures from David Stevens so that we can sign the contract.
Second.
All right, moved in second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, three yeses. Guess we don't say one absent. We say 4 yeses. Okay, we're gonna get through this okay tonight, I promise. Okay. Next, under old business is the snowplow contract. And so this is the RFP that we were tweaking to go out with the intention of seeing if there were any bidders. And if not, deciding what we're going to do from that point. So this agreement would start for 2024, 2025. So we had some tweaking that we did last time where we took out the salt loop. Lorna, did you get a chance to ever hear back from the Warren Brothers on whether or not they were doing the salt priority loop?
I contacted them but did not hear back. I also asked our road commissioner if he would reach out and ask the same question, but Jason has not gotten back to me, nor have the Warren Brothers.
Oh, we're back 1,000 today. So what is the board's pleasure?
We took out the salt priority loop, am I correct?
Right, but we
We were trying
also,
to find out on that brine
Right.
solution, whether we were using it.
right, if we were using it, if the trucks were outfitted for it.
It would seem, to me, it seems hard to put out a bid if we don't know exactly what we're asking people to bid on.
Exactly. And if we're asking for the same quality of service that we've had, what is that quality of service?
And where this is starting in another year.
And we could wait
Plus,
another
yes.
meeting to,
Yeah, we have time.
we
So
could table it to the next
we can
meeting.
always extend the deadline.
Right, for the RFP
Yeah.
until.
Yeah, so the reason we're trying to get it out as soon as possible, but trying to find if anyone interested,
Right,
Right.
is because we gotta deal with public works.
right, yeah, I understand.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to table the sand and salt. The snowplow contract, I mean, until the next meeting, pending information coming back from our current snowplow contract.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol. All those in favor? Oh, is any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, Barbara?
Yes,
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes,
All right, 4 yeses, that is tabled. Okay, now, next on the agenda was the possibility of appointing our health officer. My understanding is that the health officer had a medical procedure today and was possibly not going to be at the meeting.
He is not going
He
to be
is
at the
not
meeting.
going to be here, so I will take a motion to table the appointment of the health officer to the following meeting.
So moved.
roll.
I'm like, hang right on, guys, we'll be out of here by 8, by 7:30.
Got a question, though. Since it's an appointed position, hey, it's not a committee, can't we, he wants to do it, can't we appoint him?
Well, we haven't heard from him in person, so he wants to do it.
Okay,
So usually any appointed position, at least their
Well-
first appointment, they do present
well,
themselves.
I know we do it for the boards, but
Yeah.
if we haven't heard from him, I assume we've heard from him.
Alright,
All right.
so I'll make a motion that we table that item until the next meeting.
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded and thirded. All right, there's no further discussion. Dan,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
yes.
All right, 4 yeses, let's table that.
And so in the interim, who is, if there's a question that we need to go to the health officer, who does that go to now? Town manager. Town manager.
And then-
Or the acting town manager. Touche. Okay, so let's move right on to new business. So we have to review and approve the meeting minutes of the October 18, 2022 Select Board meeting. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That item is open for discussion.
I move we approve the minutes from October 18th.
Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. Dan,
yes,
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara,
yes,
and myself, yes, so 4 yeses. All right, moving right along, Delta ambulance. Okay, so I'll take a motion to open that item.
Second.
Moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol. I'm going to read into the meeting minutes this letter from Delta. Dear Ms. Nichols, over the past 50 years, Delta Ambulance has provided emergency ambulance service to the communities of Central Maine with a high degree of clinical quality and compassion for those people who experience a medical emergency. During that span of time, Delta has been proud of the fact that we did not need to charge a service fee to our communities. Through efficient operations and careful spending, Delta was able to absorb the cost of readiness utilizing revenues realized from both emergency and non-emergency transports. Unfortunately, ambulance reimbursement only happens when a patient is actually transported in the ambulance and the transport meets the healthcare definition of medically necessary. The day has come when our patient revenues no longer afford Delta the financial ability to absorb the cost of readiness and continue providing these services. There are many factors beyond our control, like the COVID pandemic, a severe labor shortage of qualified EMS personnel, the fragmentation of our regional operation by encroaching municipalities, and simply the rising costs associated with high-quality emergency medical care that have brought us to this juncture. At this time, it is necessary for Delta Ambulance to charge a service fee to each of the communities we serve in order to continue providing the high-quality emergency medical care that you have come to rely upon for so many years. We firmly believe the regional model Delta has built over the years is the right approach to provide emergency ambulance service to rural Maine communities. We look forward to meeting with representatives from the town of Belgrade to further discuss our request and the services that Delta Ambulance provides. Respectfully, Tim Beals, Executive Director. All right, who wants the hot seat? That would be you.
Promise I won't read this. Hold up.
Tim, I'm just gonna ask you straight up, the figure that I have in my head is 48,000. I feel like I saw that somewhere, but it's not reflected in here.
No, that is, would you like me?
Right there's fine.
Okay.
Very good.
You don't sit. It's $15 per capita is the figure that we're.
And so for the town of Belgrade, did that work out to
I think it's,
48,000?
I'm looking right now.
Madam Chair, I believe that is 48,630 is the figure I have.
30, yes.
Okay, so right around 48.
So, if I might, like to say, I won't read this to you, but there are some, just for people that are listening, and not everybody knows who Delta is. So briefly, Delta's been in, since 1972, we've been in business. Originally formed in Waterville by the 3 hospitals that were there at the time. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and so we're governed by a board of directors. That board of directors is made up of representatives from Maine General, from Inland Hospital. And we have 5 community seats on the board, so it's a 13-member board. There are vacancies on the community seat side, and some of the questions that have come from the other towns that we've talked with are about representation. You know, is there an opportunity? Would the Delta board consider a regional advisory board, or would they consider expanding the board? I think adding 14 seats to a 13-member board is probably not reasonable, but I know that the board, in talking with the executive committee, they're open to having that discussion. So I'm sure that, thinking that might be a question down the road for a minute, so I hate to say that now. Our mission, I think we do a very good job living up to the compassion, leadership, excellence in everything we do. In terms of Delta services, I look at us as a full service ambulance, meaning that we do not only the 911 calls that we're here tonight to talk about, but also interfacility work, which is the hospital, nursing home, discharges home, things like that. You'll understand why that's important in just a minute. The other piece that we do is education. And within the last little over a year, we actually established a training center at Delta. It's authorized by Maine EMS, so that we're able to conduct licensure education. Given the shortage of EMS personnel that continues, not only in Maine, but across the country, we felt one of the best ways is to grow your own, if you will, is to train people to BLS level. That's what we're authorized. So emergency medical responder, emergency medical technician, get them into the system. And then from there, the community college really is the backbone of ALS education for advanced EMT and paramedic. So we've been successful. I think we're on our 3rd class now of EMTs. And we have been able to pull employees from those 3 cohorts of students. So it has been beneficial. There's a chart of the 14 towns and the populations that they all have. 2 stations. We did have 3 at one time. There was a 3rd station located at the Maine General campus in Augusta. We closed that and consolidated everybody over to the Coney Road station in Augusta, partly for financial reasons, partly because the facility has outlived its life, if you will, for someone being in there 24/7. So then, obviously, our other station is in Waterville, where we have been since the beginning, and just across the street from where we started. What sets Delta apart from other ground ambulance services in the state really is our dedication to clinical quality excellence. And we do that by having dedicated staff, clinical quality manager, clinical coordinator. Our medical director is extremely involved in our process. Clinical practice and standards team meets periodically. So our focus is on medicine. We partner with agencies, first responder agencies, and the communities that we serve for the extrication, line of water, things like that. We focus on the patient, and that's what allows us to be so very good at treating patients. Other things dedicated, we have our own dedicated dispatch that's located in Waterville. That's important to managing the trucks, particularly within a facility like 911, so that we can manage the flow of trucks between Augusta and Waterville and make sure that we get the closest unit to the call. Compliance and privacy programs. We do our own in-house billing. So the revenue cycle is managed in-house. We have, through this process of looking at our expenses and managing our costs, looked at outsourcing versus keeping it in-house. It's less expensive to keep it in-house, and it gives us better control over that revenue cycle, which is really important when I give you a bit of billing 101 in just a second. So in my letter, I stated that we just, after 50 years, we just aren't able to absorb the readiness costs anymore. We did it for a long, long time. We're very proud of that. We're probably the last service in the state of Maine to ask for a service fee, or some places call it a subsidy, in order to continue serving communities. The reimbursement literally just has not kept pace. Medicare, this year they're giving us an 8.7% rate increase, which is the largest ever. It's still not enough. The third-party insurances, Aetna's and Blue Crosses of the world, mimic what Medicare does. Medicare and Maine Care are the largest payers of ambulance service in Maine as well as across the country, given the age of our populations. Unless you're in a fairly affluent suburban area, near a large metropolitan area, then you might see more third-party insurances than you would Medicare. But here in Maine, it's Medicare and Maine Care, the primary payers. One thing I always like to mention that we're extremely proud of, and this is not only our work, but the work of our first responder agencies that we partner with, is our cardiac survival rate. So between 2015 and 2020, we had 41 patients walk out of the hospital with absolutely no deficit, no neurodeficit, no physical deficit. And that is phenomenal in a rural setting, when your response times can be longer, but having first responders that are handy and able to start care, and then getting our staff there. This is on par with some of the really high performing systems in the country, like King County out in Washington, to have this number of 41 here in Maine. Obviously not everyone. We transported 179 patients that we were able to get a pulse back on. Not all of those met the criteria of that 41 where there's absolutely no deficit whatsoever. So, again, something we're really proud of. Quickly, for 2021, we had 293 responses out here to the town of Belgrade. The breakdown between transports and non-transports is 75% of the time we transported a patient and 25% we didn't. That's pretty consistent across all of the towns that we serve. Varies by a percent or two here and there, but this is I think the 8th town that we've talked with. And that number's been fairly consistent to 75-25. Just a trivia, this next chart, it shows your of those 293 calls, how do they fall during the course of the week, on what days. Tuesday seems to be a busy day. And then calls by the hour of the day, and it looks like 10 in the morning until about 2 in the afternoon, there's a peak. And then that's the high point of the day for calls. That was last year. This year can be totally different. And then there's a trend here, just this last table, it shows from 2018 to 10/1 of this year. The total call volume to the community, to Belgrade, has been fairly consistent, 262, 239, 270. 293. This year it's 206. It'll probably be, that 270, 290 range. What's important to look at, though, is the number of patients transported. You can see that number is quite a bit less. The reason I point that out is in ambulance billing, you can only bill when you transport. There's no reimbursement for responding to the scene when you don't transport or when you cancel the route. And I say that, and I have to clarify, there are two situations where you can bill. One is a cardiac arrest under Medicare. If you don't transport, you can bill base rate. The other is a hypoglycemic or patient with a low blood sugar who you treat, and then they say, I want to go to the hospital, which often happens. And you're able to bill main care in that situation. So there's just two times where you're able to bill for services when you don't transport. You're also only able to bill loaded miles. So that's only when the patient is in the ambulance that you can bill mileage. Otherwise, the mileage to the scene and back from the hospital is unpaid. In terms of funding sources, I mentioned that, Medicare and Main Care are the largest payers for ambulance services in the state of Maine. And that payer mix varies town by town and region of the state. We do participate with what I refer to as the third parties, the Anthems, the Aetnas, the United Healthcares, Harvard Pilgrims. We contract with them. The risk of contracting with insurance companies is that you have to take what they pay. We do our best to negotiate. By statute, they're supposed to pay a certain rate. They're not all there yet, even though it's been almost 2 years since they were told they had to do it. If there's an opportunity for an insurance company not to pay, I hope they're not listening, they'll find a way not to pay, whether it's a you miss the middle initial, or it could be anything. It's really medical necessity is the key to reimbursement, and not all patients meet medical necessity.
Is that main statute that makes it?
It is a main statute. The third parties are required to pay 200% of the Medicare rate for non-emergency work. It doesn't affect the 911 side, but on the non-emergency, the interfacility side, it does make a difference. That's been tough to negotiate with the third parties. The reality is the ambulance industry is such a small industry in the state and even nationally that our ability to lobby we're weak. There's no way to put it. We just don't have a strong lobby. At the federal level, I mean, I've been to Washington a number of times, and they always tell us we're doing a great job and we couldn't be, wouldn't know what we do without you. There never seems to be, any emphasis on getting the reimbursement up to where it needs to be to pay for services. The state, we were able to get the state to at least pay the Medicare rate within the last year. Before that, they were paying much lower. So at least we have we increased a little bit there. The reality is when you contract or under Medicare and Main Care, you have to accept what they said is the fee schedule for Medicare. And so if you charge it, let's just use round numbers and say, let's say you charge $1,000 for an ambulance call, and Medicare says we're going to pay you $500. That's what you get $500, and you have to write off the other $500. You can't collect that from anybody. It's called balance billing, so they don't allow that. So it's challenging. It's like trying to run a business on a fixed income. And that's been the challenge, is that the costs have not kept pace with technology, with the cost of ambulances, fuel. I mean, the fuel price alone has gone up 21% this year. Corporate insurance went up 66%, mostly because of the cyber side, maintaining that security. There's a stat in here from 2017 to 2020. Across the nation, the ambulance costs went up 56%. Medicare went up 5%. And for us here in Maine, our Medicare rates up just until we were told what 23 is going to look like. They would go up by 1.5%, but they would drop by 1.7. Then they would go back up. We were actually negative. So it has not kept pace, again, with expense. So how do other services handle this? Like I said, we're probably the last in the state to look for a subsidy or a service charge. The city of Augusta charges $18 per capita, and they also charge a bad debt fee. That bad debt fee is the amount of money that they weren't able to collect, so they bill the town that as well. They do a look back, so it's a couple of years back that they do that. Palermo, which was part of our system up until this year, decided to go with Liberty Ambulance, and Liberty is charging them about $43 per capita. Jefferson last year Waldeboro EMS went to the town of Jefferson and asked for $100,000 because they weren't going to be able to provide service. And that factors it out to about $40 per capita. Medcare over in Rumford, the last number I could get for those folks was $45. And then Gardner is similar to Augusta in what they charge. They also charge a bad debt fee. The reason we're at 15 and not 45 is the interfacility work. And the fact that if our trucks were just sitting in the station and waiting for a 911 call, that cost goes up. And that would be in that $40 range because you're not generating any other revenue. The fact that our trucks, the unit hour utilization is high. If they're not on a 911, they might be in the station or they might be doing it in a facility transfer. So the trucks are constantly moving, and we use that interfacility revenue to subsidize the ambulance operation. So it offsets some of the costs associated with providing service to the towns. It's a balance. I know Travis has had to live this a couple of times where, we try to keep trucks free for 911. And that's why it's important for our own dispatch, and to balance the interfacility work and the 911 work. And some days, when you anticipate somebody to get back on time and they don't get back in time from Portland, another trip has gone out. But I think we do a pretty good job balancing that. So that we always have trucks available for 911 and we're able to support the hospitals for interfacility work. We serve about 500 square miles between Smithfield and Somerville and Whitefield in that area. And, as I said in the letter, we're not able to sustain that, the operation the way we have run it for the last 50 years. It just isn't working any longer. What have we done so far? We've done a hard look at our expenses. We're not, coming to the towns as a bloated organization. We have trimmed our staff. We have trimmed the number of trucks we have on the road to match the call volume. We are using what's known as a response plan, which is Kristen's to catch up with this and change a little bit. The response plan, even though we're a paramedic service, the response plan allows us to send a lower licensed truck based on the emergency medical dispatch codes. So the EMD dispatcher recognizes that this is not, a severe emergency. We could send an EMT ambulance or an advanced EMT ambulance to that call. We've shown that that's been very accurate. Watching the numbers, it's helped that we've been able to run the data so that that it's not perfect. There are times when a paramedic should have been there. They can always request one. The paramedics are supporting those trucks from an SUV. We also have paramedic ambulances in addition. So we still have paramedics, but we try to utilize our staff more efficiently. And obviously the lower license levels are cost less, quite frankly, when it comes to payroll. Working with the hospitals to work on their discharges so that they spread them out and not, we don't get a big burst of requests in the afternoon when it's shift change and we know that our 911 volume is peaking a little bit. So we've been doing what we can to address the cost. We arrived at the flat per capita fee after some discussion with the board, it's probably the most common formula used throughout the state. Farmington has one that we did look at. It's much more complicated. It uses valuation, population. There's like 10 different variables that go into the formula. And my board just felt that where this is our first time going to towns, first time you're hearing from us, that just keep it simple. That's not to say that the towns can't have input going forward if another type of formula seems to be more equitable than flat per capita. But again, flat per capita fee seems to be the most commonly used one in the state of Maine. So it is $15 per capita. That is $48,630 is the request to the town of Belgrade. My timeline here says effective January 23. That's our calendar year for our fiscal year. We know that your fiscal year is different, so it would begin when your fiscal year begins.
So our fiscal year does begin January 1st,
Oh,
but our town meeting is not until March. So what we have in March is the ability to,
I see.
so we request that 25% ahead.
Okay.
So
Couple of questions that have come up is, how does the town pay? Is it monthly, upfront, quarterly? Quarterly seems to be the most popular from the other towns that we've talked to. And again, I think that should be independent of any town, whatever matches best for you folks is fine with us. The other question was a multi-year contract, and we haven't, my board didn't discuss multi-year contracts. Again, there's some things that we didn't anticipate. That's something I'm gonna bring back to them maybe this coming month. Talk about. So again, our commitment, is to continue to provide, the same level and quality of ambulance service that the town of Belgrade has had over the years. I don't know if Belgrade was one of the original towns that dealt with service. Certainly since I came in 1984, we've been responding to Belgrade. So I think it could be pretty much all of that 50 years that we've been coming out here. We still will provide continuing education to the first responders, swap out soft goods, O2 replenishment. We have the training center, we have other classes that are available, and fire scene standbys, things like that we would not charge for. Or if there were an event in town, you needed an ambulance to cover it, we would provide that ambulance and again not charge a fee for it. When we cover events at Colby, we charge Colby a fee. So, but not to the towns that are in our region. And I say it's a regional system. There's no formal, obviously, as you know, no formal regional system that exists other than the 14 towns that we serve. The benefits to that regional approach, obviously, is the quality of care, the repetition of skills that the staff at Delta get by seeing multiple emergencies. I sort of, the analogy is if you're gonna have hip surgery, you want to go to the guy that does, many a month as opposed to one a month. And the same thing is true with EMS providers. You want experienced providers that have seen, multiple crises and responded to them and know what to expect in those situations. It means being a part of that region means you don't have to invest in the equipment and ambulances and things like that. You get out of a lot of the burden of the infrastructure of compliance and privacy and those kinds of things that are added cost. That, in a nutshell, certainly happy to take questions.
I know you say we're all struggling with hiring. So this is going to be used towards more pay for your paramedics or try to recruit people back, retirement, et cetera? What are you gonna be, I know you're saying the training's helping with the EMTs, that's starting down here, but I know you've lost them over the years.
Yes.
How can you get some of those back? Are you
Right.
using some of that money for that
Yes,
purpose,
the,
to raise the wages?
the wages, I mean, we were in a bidding war last year. Essentially. There has been a shortage. I think the pandemic really exacerbated the fact, but I think on the fire side, you guys have seen the volunteer issue. Firefighters for many years, EMS was trailing a little bit behind. But we certainly felt it over the course of the pandemic, people just leaving the industry. Were leaving us and looking at other services that were less busy. There were a number of factors, but the bidding war that started was because there were not enough people in the pool of qualified, because you need somebody with certifications. So everybody started raising their hourly fees, you know, they just kept raising the rates. I mean, we did a $3 across the board increase, which put us, you know, above the middle, higher middle, if you will. That is, you know, we've fallen back as, and it's the municipalities that we compete against, you know, that particularly in southern Maine, where they're offering incentives and, you know, bonuses to start and higher wages. The draw to a municipality for someone in EMS or fire is a 25-year retirement. We can't compete with that. We're not able to participate in it. We do have a 401k with a match that we offer. Our benefit package is competitive, but it's the hourly wage that, you know, we have to keep, you know, we have to pay what the market demands. We're not going to get the people or retain them.
So I don't think that's gonna change for a while.
No.
I think it's gonna be, that's what I'm thinking, that we're doing wages, so we get the top people, get them back, or
And keep the ones we have.
keep the ones that.
Yeah, I mean, we did get one of the outcomes of that Waterville project was we did get a joint education grant to send people to paramedic school. We've got 3 folks in paramedic school right now, 4 scheduled for next year. But as you know, that's 2 years out.
And I agree with the EMT thing, you know, starting an open house is a great thing, you need the paramedics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not, we're sort of getting into the weeds a little bit. The medics aren't moving around like they used to. They would shift, you know, they would go to different services or look for different things, in different services. They're just not moving anymore. They're staying where they're at.
So some of that money is gonna be used for wages.
Yeah. Right, wages, keep our equipment up to date.
Now, what if a town says they're not gonna pay?
Then we would respond.
So we're not gonna be like, say, that's not saying, we pay, another town pays, we're not gonna be paying the
Yeah, so,
paying, so they're just not gonna transfer for that. So
no, the board made it clear, and that has come up a couple of times in different towns about, well, what if we don't pay? Look for another ambulance.
which we don't have. At least not here.
Right.
Um,
So we have a couple of options, because this looks like, I mean, my total here, Tim, is $639,000 is what
Yes.
you're looking at across the board,
If all the towns participate.
which is quite a jump from 0. And for us, I mean, our reflection is at 0 to
I
48,000.
understand, yeah.
And
And in their defense a little bit, they don't, like you said, there's that 25% that they come out here, they might make the trip all the way out here before we cancel them, and they don't get paid for these services, and they've always been free for that. They don't transport, they don't get paid. Except for you said a couple of instances, but
No, it is a big jump. I agree. This is the last place I wanted to be, is coming to a town and asking for money. We had several towns say you should have come sooner and worked your way up. We didn't. We, you know, a crystal ball failed us, I guess, if you will, that we didn't anticipate the shortfall to be as rapid as it was. And that's really it.
has the board anticipated any, like you're 15 now, but like 20 next year, is there?
I
you gonna
can't,
try to.
that was gonna be my question. Tim, like, so
I
what are
know
we
you
looking
mentioned
at for this, Tim,
the
like?
45 one scared me.
I was hoping to
Right.
avoid that encouraged.
Yeah. I know you can't hold it to you. but, I
I
mean,
can't say that it
I
won't go
can't.
up. You know, I will not sit here and, you know, try to play a poker face. You know, it could go up. You know, if it does, we're gonna do everything we can to minimize the increase. I don't see it going to 40 by any stretch, but it's certainly possible. It depends on, you know, reimbursement, collections. We are getting an increase from Medicare. That'll translate over to main care. The third parties, that'll help on the interfacility side. Call volume has gone down with Waterville doing their own transport and Winslow doing their own transport. So that's over 4,000 calls that we aren't billing for anymore. So we haven't, you know, we're still adjusting to a lower call volume.
But you're still doing a paramedic intercept.
Once in a while.
Winslow more than.
Winslow more than one, yeah. Barely.
So this is just a 1 year
For now, it's
guarantee.
well, so yeah, $15 for 1 year. And again, I think the board, when I discussed this with them in a multi-year contract, I know other places do it. There's a small increase each year. Kind of sort of liken it to a cost of living increase, if you would. But the 15 is for the next year. For the
I guess it'd be a little more palatable if we had a 2-year option or something.
Yeah,
that
no,
said,
I don't.
For the first
disagree.
2 years, this is where we're at, get yourself used to it,
Yep.
instead of next year having another big bump or a bump.
I'm bringing that message back. It's been loud and clear from several towns, so. I don't know why the board would at least entertain a multi-year contract. So that, you know, because I know it's important for you folks to be able to manage your costs too. You know, going forward.
Or paying full discount.
Painful.
If you pay for the year, you save 5%, or, you know,
Well,
something like that.
Yeah, it is.
that's a new one.
A lot of places do that on other types of contracts.
Tim, have you noticed a lot of the towns saying that they're not going to participate?
We have not had any say that yet.
And I think it's mostly because there's no option available.
Yeah.
Right, well, because, you know, and I can check to see if we had another option. No offense to you guys, but, you know,
Yes.
realistically,
You
we
have to
wouldn't
do
be
due
doing our due diligence if we didn't see if there was something else that would work for the town of Belgrade.
There's,
And,
I can tell you right now, there's not many options.
right,
Russ is not gonna take on Waterville.
I don't think Winthrop ambulance is gonna get any
If
bigger.
you're talking further away, and it's the only service having issues to get. I mean, Augusta Fire, they're short.
They're short.
I mean, they could put on probably another 2-3 ambulances.
We,
I think they gotta get people to do it,
right.
and they only hire paramedics.
yeah, I sat with the Augusta Fire Chief a little over a month ago, and we looked basically to the straw poll between Brunswick and the Forks. We counted 50 full-time positions that were open. And if you go south, that number is just as large in the state. I mean, there's just vacancies everywhere. I mean, every day I get an email. I don't know if you get them, but
yeah.
I get them every day from services and they're generous. I mean, in some, you know, they live somewhere else.
Everyone's fishing from the same pool.
Yeah,
So the other thing, when you made that comment to them about your response,
yes.
this change,
First, that
Just
response.
you have a brief, is it
So,
drastic or
no,
is it?
I think Chris is, I wanted to be here tonight. He's- It's gonna be a daytime only. So, like, permanent trucks. So that response plan will be placed during the day. So that's a good thing. So
So is similar to what you're doing now, but just the
It
daytime
would
is
just be
gonna be,
daytime.
daytime will be all paramedics.
So you guarantee paramedics at night on every call.
But of course, Belgrade looks like after 2 o'clock, everybody's good.
Yeah.
So it really isn't gonna affect us
That
that,
doesn't happen.
No, it's only Tuesdays.
right?
I think it was yesterday, we had enough going yesterday.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
don't
we
have
put a
no-
Tuesday surcharge on.
And I will say to everyone that over the years, we've been very happy with Delta services, so.
They do, for me and as far out from the towns. Sometimes it's delay, but. You go.
How often of our calls do we have to call Delta?
Everyone calls.
It's automatic. for all-
Automatic on it, okay,
And that's what he was talking about, the level of the call.
yeah,
Is when it comes in, somebody's not feeling good, they're probably gonna send out a basic truck.
And if we get on scene and find they're not needed, we will cancel.
We try to cancel as soon as we can, because they don't get paid.
Just like they'll come over for lift assist, things like that. you know.
Yeah. I mean, we've been there trying to get the patient out. They show up, they help,
yeah.
and then they go back and don't get paid. So there is time that they don't get paid.
Well, we didn't pay him for anything till,
I know.
Yeah.
till January 1st of next year.
Yeah, we've heard about it a lot. Public safety in last year, something we've got to work on more.
Yeah, I mean, the state, right there is insurance, because they're not getting paid what they should be getting paid, and then they wouldn't be getting the challenge. That's a big thing in all part of the medical field, not just ambulance.
I know there's a Blue Ribbon Commission meeting for EMS. They were presented with a $70 million price tag for emergency funding and funding for the system. And I think that's a great idea. I'm sure it'll hit the appropriate, if it were ever voted in, it hits the appropriations table and along with all the other requests may or may not get funded. I mean, to think that it would, I mean, and again, that's been a question, is what if all of a sudden reimbursement was better and met your cost, and would that drop the cost for the town? Absolutely. I mean, as a not-for-profit, we break even and a little bit extra to make sure you can replace your equipment. That's the model. So, my card is in the front of all those packets. If you think of something, it's not in there. No.
Let me check the back.
No, it's not in there. I thought it was. There's no.
There's no card in here.
I'm embarrassed.
We can deduct the box of cards. Do you have spares in your wallet?
I have some in the car that I can probably get. Yes.
All right, does anyone else have any other questions? I appreciate you coming tonight and
Well, thank you very
answering the
much for
questions that
having
we
us.
have.
And I'll get the cards. No problem.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone else you want from us? Budget committee, town meeting.
What's that?
You want to come back with budget committee? We need to get involved.
I think at this point, we're looking at, we've got a couple of big budget meetings coming up. I think for what we've heard tonight, will we need them to come back? You think you guys? Yeah.
Happy to come back.
I mean, you're getting half of either when it comes to voting time anyway.
True.
And I can form the budget committee. No one can come in.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, you got most of us here anyway, so you're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you coming.
Take care. Thank you.
Cal, can you just make sure that Nick gets that on the public safety, probably part of the agenda for the next meeting?
For the
It's in
next
our-
budget meeting or the big,
The budget meeting that we got coming
the
up.
big one?
Yeah, it's in our budget.
You
It's
got
in
it.
our budget. Yeah, we already-
I thought you said they're gone. I'm like, what?
You already built it in the budget?
For sure.
It's mentioned in the packet.
Yeah, it's mentioned in our-
All right.
Slow spending money.
All right, so next up, we have code enforcement hours. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Thank
We'll
you.
discuss that other thing we talked about
Yes.
in the future.
Yeah, do you think, should we put it on the next agenda?
Yeah.
Because now we can just put it
Yeah.
on
I'm good.
a stinker.
Yeah. I'll be here.
All right, thank you, Dan. So Mary, can you just make a note that on the next agenda, we need to add an agenda item for dedication of Great Fire Station. All right, so next up, we have code enforcement hours. Is the code enforcement officer present?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that sounds right there. And so I'll take a motion first to open up. Okay, moved by Carol,
Second.
seconded by Dan. Okay, that item is open for discussion. So what is not reflected here, and it's kind of hard for us to have a meeting where we don't have all the information. So what I did do was I went and I had screenshotted from the website the hours that were uploaded as new code enforcement hours, and then what we have currently for code enforcement hours. So right now, the public can come in anytime between 8 AM and 4:30 PM, Monday through Friday, and pick up a permit application. They can come in Thursdays until 7 PM and pick up a permit application and speak to the code enforcement officer anytime until 7 PM. Mondays from 8:30 to 1:30, the code enforcement officer is scheduled in the office, and Mondays 8:30 to 1:30. And then Thursdays 4 to 6. There's more there. I think I missed something.
I thought it was
Is it
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 1:30?
Yeah. And then on Thursdays, 4 to 6 when it's planning board Thursdays, and then 4 to 7 when it's not planning board Thursdays.
Right, so that's not what it states on here. On the website currently, it says Monday through Friday, 8:30 AM to 1:30 PM. Thursday evenings from 4 to 6 PM. So the 6 PM hour on the website also was not, that changing department hours, that did not go through the board process. I understand that on planning board meeting nights, that the code enforcement officer sometimes in a million years past has had to step out of the meeting sometimes in order to handle a permit application. So cutting that back to 6 o'clock, if it's not reflective of planning board, I don't understand why we would make a blanket change to that to 6 PM. But the change to the code enforcement hours essentially cuts the public's hours down when they can come in to speak to the code enforcement officer to 8 hours a week. 9 AM to 12 noon, 2 days a week, and 4 to 6 PM on Thursday evenings. So we go from, you can come in anytime and be serviced, or at least 8:30 to 1:30, meet with a code enforcement officer, or Thursday evenings. And essentially, this cuts folks who work out of being able to come in for the permit process. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do in the town is not to make it harder for people to get a permit, because if it's too hard to get one, people aren't going to. So I understand that maybe we need to find a little bit of a balance. I like the idea of having appointment times for code enforcement. I think that that's a good thing. But I also don't want to make it so difficult for the public to come in and get their permits, or to be made to feel like they're inconveniencing.
But the code enforcement officer also has to have time that he's out in the field, that
Right.
people,
He has to go look and he has to be able to
yeah, he
inspect
can't
it.
always be in his office.
So absolutely not. So the 8:30 to 1:30, I think would be appropriate. The Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 1:30, and 4 to 7 on Thursday nights. So that would give him,
Isn't that
hours.
most of his hours?
Yeah.
8:30 to 1:30 is 5 hours, 5 days a week is 25 plus 2 on. I mean, that means all his hours are here in the office.
Right.
so what do we propose?
I got a comment.
Bruce?
So most towns, how this works with code enforcement and permanent inspections is there are hours that you show that they're in the office. That's also inspection hours. So if they're out on an, so if they're here I'm just throwing a number out, 8 to 12, and they have a scheduled inspection at 9, to go do that, inspection, somebody has to wait until they come back to meet with them. That's how it works in all the other towns.
Right.
I deal with multiple towns, and that's how it works.
And that's how it worked here too.
Right, that's how it worked with Gary, that's how it worked with,
Those hours that are posted are in and out
out
of
of the office and out in the office. And that's how it is in every town in this state.
But they're just regular, consistent hours.
Right.
I
Right.
think that's continuity and just keeping those regular hours is important. Because if you start making all these different hours, like I'm in the office these hours, I'm not in the office these hours.
Right, or I'm in the office, but I'm not accessible to the public. I just, I understand if maybe we need to find a different balance that works for everybody, but we're here to serve the public. So we need to make sure that what our balance is reflective of the folks that we serve.
Can we ask Hans to respond to
Yeah,
what he
absolutely.
thinks would work best?
Yep,
Well, the hours that I found I'm most productive in the office are, the Monday 9 to 12, Thursday 9 to 12, it's just, and Wednesday, but like the phone rings today, as an example, I got a report that there was a failing leach field system where septic was purging up through the ground. That's something supposed to immediately go and have a look at. So the idea of paring back the hours was to better serve the public. Okay, it was to actually say, yes, I will be here during this window of time, but I'll need an hour at the end of my day to possibly go do a site visit and maybe a little time at the beginning of my day. And paring back the hours doesn't mean I will not be in the office. That's just the time that I'm telling the public that I can be dedicated to the office. So it's, my work hours are going to remain the same. It's just, we're not going to have citizens come in and sit there and wait for me for an hour while I'm in fact looking at a junkyard or something. So I think it's to better serve the public by not listing so many hours on the website. That's where I'm coming from.
okay, and Hans, do you have a cell phone that's available to the public? Because on the website, there's staff contacts and your name, but there's no number associated with it except the town.
I do have a cell phone provided by the town, and it is on the business cards. And as far as permitting, the iWork software is now engaged. People can go online, submit applications for permits. So my presence isn't necessary for somebody to fill out a permit. And
Now, Hans, have you noticed that a lot of the citizens in Belgrade are aging? And that not all of the citizens in Belgrade are comfortable filling out applications online. Not all of them have access to computers where they can fill out a PDF form online and know that it's getting to the party that it's supposed to be. Is
I'm
that-
aware of the demographics of Belgrade, and our first online application was done by a retiree. And he actually submitted it 3 times because he liked the process and wanted to make sure he got it just right.
Or maybe wanted to make sure he got it just right and wasn't sure the first 2 times that they had.
Well, he did help us work through some glitches. There were some upload issues and, but he was diligent and happy to be number 1.
Nice.
I think it makes sense that we have a certain period of time when people know someone can be here. I think the website can say that the officer is available during these times, but will definitely be in the office a set time. Because if I thought I could come in and just see him and then it's like, oh, not here, I've got to wait. That to me would be disruptive of my time. If I knew that I had to plan to go do something else first and then come here between 9 and 12 or whatever it is, then I know I can do it then, and I'm not coming and taking a guess of whether he's going to be here. So for me, it would be better to have some definite times, and we'd have to clarify the wording. The code enforcement officer is available during these hours, but will definitely be in the office these
Unless
particular
he's
times.
called out For an emergency inspection because the septic is bubbling up.
Right. There's
Well,
always-
that's not in
There's
everything,
always going to be something else.
but appointments, are encouraged. I mean, that's. I would definitely post or by appointment, and encourage it
Yeah,
if
I
they
would
really
encourage-
wanted to see me.
Yeah, I think that's important that people make appointments.
I mean, we could keep the hours the same and then put on the website, appointments taken between this time and this time per day. And that's the only time you can guarantee your appointments other than an emergency. Somebody has to have an emergency. Exactly.
But I thought Hans was saying that appointments could be beyond the minimum
Yeah, there could come other
hours.
days.
Yeah, it could be at times, but I mean, you can guarantee if you're gonna be in the hours in the office, certain hours. That's the only time you're really gonna be able to guarantee those appointments.
But the hours now are Monday 9 to 12, Thursday 9 to 12, and was there a time on Wednesday also?
No, the proposed hours that were popped up on the website were 2 days a week from 9 to 12 and
Right.
Thursdays from 4 to 6. So not 3 days.
So those
not
were the
4 days,
those are
not
the
5
guarantees.
days.
Those are the guarantee of the
times.
office.
Guarantee
The other
that he'll be in
times,
the office.
Who's still gonna be
He
working.
was available by
He could
appointment other
be-
times.
Yeah, he
Right.
could be here, there, right?
Right, that's not how it was on the website. It's down now. And the former hours are back up.
But I mean, that makes sense to me.
Would it, as a contractor, Bruce, would it be easier for you if you knew there were certain times that you could?
I mean, how it works around all the towns that I deal with, and I deal with a ton of them is you go by the hours that the code enforcement or plumbing inspectors in the office. And you make a phone, I always make a phone call before I drive out, right, do my permit, right to chat. Because most plumbing inspectors require you to go in person so they can see your license to do their plumbing permit. So I have to do it in person. So I always make a phone call, make sure the person is there before I go. But it's nice to have you just go by the set hours. I know all the other towns, they don't have inspections, they just have a set hours. I mean, if what you guys are proposing is fine, but I know how the other towns work, is it set hours. I mean, City of Augusta, they have 2 code enforcement officers, and they're from 8 to 4 every day. But they may be gone on an inspection, or like he had an emergency, had sewage coming up, they may be out doing that. If so, you gotta wait, or, you should have called, it should say on it, encourage to call to make sure the code enforcement and plumbing inspectors in the office. That's what it should say. I'm not a big deal unless you're doing a big, you have to have a big appointment for doing a building permit or something like that, but I know like with plumbing, it's in and out basically. Basically, because we gotta make sure that the homeowner or the contractor has, on some projects, has gotten a building permit, because the building permit's gonna correspond to the plumbing.
Right.
But by calling ahead, you're basically making an appointment.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of us companies, small companies, it's by the, okay, I got 10 minutes and they're supposed to be open today, let's see if they're there, if not, we'll have to do it
Right, so
tomorrow.
if you have Hans's cell phone, then
Right.
you can call him and say,
Yeah.
hey, are you in the office?
Yeah.
And you'll know whether or not to come.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's partly a matter of communication.
It's 100% communication.
And for those of you who are contractors, that's one thing. But if I'm having my house, building on an addition or doing something at my house, I don't know all the rest of that. So to know that if I get there between 8 and 10 or 9 and 12, I'm gonna find someone that serves me as an individual who's coming to get a permit or talk about what I need to do.
But see, the other thing, between 8 and 4 during the day, you gotta leave time, you gotta have some days there that you have a wide spread for inspections. Because you could hold, this could hold my project up for a week, because I can't get an inspection.
Well,
That's the
that's
other-
why if he's there, what Hans is, he's got an hour in the morning and if he's there 9 to 12, he's got an hour and a half afterwards. And it's only a certain period of time he's going to be there for sure, count on it. And other times would be by appointment or if he didn't have something else.
But it's saying, I mean, there's times in this town, when there's multiple inspections per day that need to be done. And an hour is not gonna get them multiple inspections done. It may run into his other time to get them inspections done. You know, we can't, you know, as far as me, as a citizen in this town, not as a contractor, you can't start holding up your contractors and putting them behind and way behind schedule, because that's, you know, that starts costing the contractors more money, which is gonna cost the citizens of the town money, because they're being held up. Now the contractor's gonna leave, go do another job, and not gonna be able to get back, so on and so forth. I mean, this happens in other towns, I'm not saying it doesn't, and that's what happens, it costs the contractors and the people, the homeowners, more money, because the contractors have to pull out and go do another job, and then come back, and when they can get it inspected and come back, sometimes it's a week, you know, because some towns, you got 1 day a week. We're fortunate, we have more than 1 day a week. But I'm just saying, you need to make sure that if he needs to go do an inspection while he's here, that's how it's always worked. When it was, you know, when Gary was here, even when Rich was here, if they were here working, they were able to do an inspection. Now, I know with plumbing, usually it's 20, you know, we give a 24-hour notice. Sometimes we'll call and, you know, like with Gary and Richard call and say, hey, if you're available, we're ready. If you're not available, can I get an inspection tomorrow, you know? But it always had to work, you know, like with Gary, it was, he was here 3 days a week. And you planned your inspections for him 3 days a week.
So this issue came up because there was a citizen who came in who had to sit and wait because Hunt
They
wasn't
came
here.
back, run an errand and come back.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's always been that way. And it's like that in any other, all the other towns. People go in and they have to wait.
So, I mean, I'm trying to look through some of the towns right now. I'm looking at Chelsea. Their normal office hours are 8:30 to 4:30 or 8:30 to 6. Their code enforcement officers, Monday, it's 9 to 1. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's by appointment only. So they're working, but it's by appointment only because he can be anywhere.
But what it boils down to is he's only dedicated there. He's got other towns he's doing. So you call by appointment, you call him, make an appointment for your, you know,
Yeah.
for your, you know, it's how it works in most of the towns, but
So like
some towns
9,
it's
but like this one, 9 to 1, it doesn't look like they're doing any inspections. So you have to call and schedule it,
Right.
any type of inspection.
Well, did you say when Gary was here, he was here 3 days a week?
yes.
This isn't much different of saying that Hans will be in his office for a
Right.
certain period of time. Those 3
Right.
days and the rest of his time available by appointment or.
Right, but how Gary's worked or how Richard worked, both Gary and Richard, you know, is they were here their 3 days, but they was either here doing appointments here in the office, or if they had an inspection, they pop out doing an inspection. And then they come back, and if there's people waiting, I mean, there's been times with Richard, he'd be out on inspection, I'd wait, and then he'd come back and we'd get the permit and that's, you know, that's how it's always worked. That's how it works in the town of Rome. With Andy Margot, it's the same way.
well, we haven't really tried this more limited hours, right? It's just been on the website very briefly and then it's taken down, so.
Right.
I mean, do we want to give that a try and see it and see how that goes and try to explain that, you know, these are the hours that the code enforcement officer plans to be in the office?
To me, it seems logical to try it. If it doesn't work, we can change it if it ends up creating problems.
I don't want us to change the hours and then change them back and tweak them again and tweak them back. I don't. So, and I have a sticking point as well with the code enforcement officer being here until 7 PM, but saying the public, they're not accessible after 6.
Isn't that because of the planning board, because he has to be available to the planning board?
And every other code enforcement officer would step out. They don't run the planning board meeting. Peter Rushton does. The planning board is the
No, I know.
planning board. It's not the code enforcement officer board. So they would always step out when they were available to the public, they were available to the public. So, and folks need to know when those hours are, and if we change the hours up for department, and I don't have a problem with us massaging them a little bit, but we need to make sure as a board that we represent the citizens of this town, that we don't represent individual departments, but that what we do is we make sure the services that we provide are accessible during the hours that the public needs them.
I know when Zoom started, Richard and Gary until 7 would listen to the meeting by Zoom and you know, chime in when they needed to.
And that seems like an appropriate response.
Yeah, we didn't always go to the planning board meeting. Gary didn't. He would Zoom it.
Right, he'd Zoom it right in his office.
Yeah.
And
So
Richard did it too.
which is more considerate of citizens? For them to know that there's a 5-hour window where they may or may not find a code enforcement officer here, or that there's a 3-hour window when they're more likely to find him here.
So I feel like if we do 9 to 12 and the hours start at 8:30, there's not going to be an inspection done at 8:30 in the morning, be back in the office by 9. And if you say you're here until 12 and a permit runs over, he has to leave by 1:30 because he has another position. So that does not, and if they state they're here for those times, well, you know, that's what we need to be sure that we're accommodating. Is when they're here, it has to be accessible to the public. And that,
I mean, you
Has
take
to
like
be
in the
able to
morning for plumbing inspection, by the time we get on the job site, get everything ready to rock and roll, and get an air test on, it's probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, we're ready for inspection, the first thing in the morning inspection.
If we moved it from 10 to 12, so you would have, you'd know there's a couple hours that you can come in and do it, would that be a compromise? I don't know, I just,
Well, I was gonna ask another question. Was this issue brought up because of one person who had to wait?
that's what this
And
says.
if everybody knows that they might have to wait, then that's the way it is.
Mhm.
And if you want to be sure to get the code enforcement officer, then you make an appointment.
Then you can call and make an appointment.
You get appointments every other place.
Yeah.
People, too bad, someone's gotta wait once in a while.
Yeah. Right.
And if I may clarify just a couple things, the early morning site visits I do are site visits primarily for building permits to actually see the sites, understand, you know, if they're shoreline zone, how much shoreline zone they are, and what other particulars that may not come across on a piece of paper and a diagram on graph paper. The gentleman in the audience is correct. The plumbing inspections take a little bit more time. Those would occur on the days that I don't have the office hours, or in the afternoon in that hour-and-a-half window that, you know, they can have it pressurized and sitting and waiting, and I can show up. They're ready, I show up, everybody's on the same page, we knock it out, and they can continue. So that morning time, that 30 minutes in the morning, I do try to incorporate stops in my commute instead of coming to the office and then driving back out to another site. You know, it's, to me, it's a
That makes
better
sense.
use of time to, you know, use my my commuting, for lack of a better word,
Yeah, that makes sense.
as
Yeah.
productive time. It's better for the town and it's better for me.
Yeah. And you said Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday are the busiest times.
Definitely Monday and Thursday. And see, Thursday, I could do the office and the evening. I mean, that's the long day. And I find I'm pretty much in the office the whole day anyhow on Thursday. But again, this window on the website is just so that citizens don't show up expecting me to be there, and I'm not. So it's really for their convenience, not mine.
Are there 2 days? So here's my thought, Hans. What if we keep the hours the same, the 8:30 to 1:30? And the Thursday nights 4 to 7? But have on the website that pick 2 days that you think are the easiest for you to say, I for sure will be in the office these days, and if you don't have permit applications, you can be working on iWorks or notes or whatever else that you may need to have done. But I also don't want to shortchange you with time to get that stuff done. But if we did 8:30 to 1:30, like the hours are now, 4 to 7 on Thursday evenings, are there 2 days there that if we said 9 to 12 or 10 to 12, that you'll be in the office unless you're called out for an emergency? You know, so that we're clear with the public that this is when you're guaranteed to be here and accessible. You know, but there may be an emergency, life happens.
Well, Mondays and Thursdays and, you know, are the days I would choose to dedicate to just being in the office.
Okay,
Why don't we just do those two to guarantee, and everything else is by appointment only, or by chance?
Yeah, by
by
appointment.
appointment or by chance.
I like that one by chance.
Yeah. How does that sound, Hans?
That's, I work for you.
What's that?
I think I work for you Mondays and Thursday, you know, again.
Do you want to say 10 to 12 or 9 to 12?
I'd rather
Because
do 9 to 12. And
And
that way
gives
I
you-
do have the times, you know, egressing that if I need it, but more than likely I'd just be in the office anyway.
Okay, so Monday, Thursday, 9 to 12, Thursday, 4 to 6.
4 to
4 to
7, you
7.
can step out of the meeting if you needed
4
to.
to 7, and you can zoom into the planning board meeting if you
Planning
need
board
to.
meeting.
And other times by appointment.
Or chance.
Or chance.
Or by
I like the
chance.
by chance.
Yeah.
By
Well, I-
appointment or by chance.
I like to buy
That way it's-
appointment. I like to buy appointment because the cell phone does ring a lot and people say, hey, can you come by? And I do. So they got an appointment within 10 minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
Okay, so Monday and Thursday, 9 to 12, Thursday, 4 to 7,
or by
and
appointment.
then, or by appointment or by chance. Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So I have a question. So it's not gonna be 8:30 to 1:30?
It
Or it
is
is still
so
gonna be
the code
8:30 to
enforcement-
1:30 with specified times of Mondays and
office
Thursdays,
appointment.
9 to 12. And then
4 to 7.
4 to 7, those are in
Thursday.
office hours.
Right.
Okay.
Everything
well,
else.
can you repeat that?
Okay, so 8:30 to
That's what I
1:30,
need.
Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 Thursday evenings. So appointments can be set Mondays and Thursdays from 9 to 12? No.
No,
No.
that's not what he
Those
said.
are
In
just
office.
drive-ins.
Appointments can be set any time. But he's in the office Monday and Thursday, 9 to 12. That's when he's
Okay.
guaranteed to be.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody wants to call and set an appointment those days, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
People know they're
Right.
coming in, but if not, he's still guaranteed to be in. Unless he gets his emergency
I
call.
think, I don't know, it seems to me that adding the 8:30 to 1:30 is going to confuse things.
8:30 to 1:30 is already on the website. It
It
says
is
code
already on-
enforcement
it's been on
officer
the
hours are
website.
8:30 to 1:30.
What that does is that helps the contractors know when they're available, if you know, and if you say in office, that's the in office part, it tells us,
Okay,
okay.
and
they're
in
not
office.
in
able-
office.
In office, Monday and Thursday,
Monday,
9 to
Thursday,
12.
9 to 12.
Thursday.
That tells us that we can't call for an inspection or something on them,
And then
Okay.
them hours.
Okay,
appointments other time.
in office.
In
Okay. that's
Okay.
All right, so
Other than-
let's read my motion back. If you could clarify my motion for me, Mary, that would be great.
So the motion is working Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 1:30. Mondays and Thursdays, it will be in office 9 to 12. Thursdays, it will also be 4 to 7 in office hours. All other hours will be by appointment or chance. Yes.
That sound okay?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
second.
All right. Moved by me, seconded by Carol. Heaven help us, is there any more discussion? All right. Is that, what was that? What was that, was peanut gallery?
I heard that.
Can we play that meeting all that? All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, Barbara,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
all right, 4-4. All right. All right, next on the agenda is town meeting. So we have the town meeting date. That is always set as the,
So that was done by the legislative body, so it would have to be changed by that. So that was done in 2001.
yeah, no, the intention wasn't to change the
Okay,
date.
all right. Well, I wasn't sure when you saw the agenda. items,
No, not reinventing the
Okay.
wheel. I think Lorna probably just wasn't aware that we have our marching orders on which date town meeting is, and that's what we go by.
so that's the third Saturday.
third said
It's
March
always-
18th.
Always.
That is the third Saturday unless we're in COVID, and then it's July. Or possibly August or whatever we can get done. So the town meeting date is set for March 18th. I don't know that we have to make a decision right this second, but we do have to start deciding if we're going to do a bifurcated meeting like we always did until COVID hit, or if we're gonna go to a referendum only. My vote is that we go back to town meeting.
My vote's always gonna be that too, so.
Okay, there's two.
When you get things out, so people, if the people want to be involved in government, they will show up. If they don't want to be involved in government, they won't show up.
We're back to having, whole suppers and dances at the community center and everything else, so it's not like we're worrying so much about people together anymore.
I like the idea of increased participation in voting
So do
by the
I.
referendum.
A meeting will have 120, 150. I don't know, what is that about what we have?
Yeah,
100.
depends if you have anything controversy or any big subjects. I think this town meeting is gonna be a very big town, a very big. It's looking like the budget's gonna be very different than it has in the past years. And I think it's gonna be more important to do an in-person town meeting because you guys are gonna be able to need to discuss stuff on the floor and to explain stuff to taxpayers. These public meetings, nobody goes to. And so people are gonna go to that voting booth and they're gonna vote for stuff and they're not even gonna know what they're voting.
Or they're gonna vote against it because they
Correct.
don't know what they're voting.
And this is something the four of you need to really listen out to and, here is a bunch of, there's not many of us here tonight, but you see a majority here tonight is saying, we want in-person town meeting.
Is that what you're saying? The four of you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, and if you go out through the town, most of the people that go, I mean, like I say, controversy, if you have, not controversy, if you have a real active budget, you draw a lot more people. If it's the same budget and it doesn't change, and that's what's happened, if it's that budgets have been stale for a lot of years, things have stayed the same. So everybody's like, no, it's just the same, we don't need to go. Nothing's changed, nothing's changed, nothing's changed, and it hasn't changed in years, but this year, it's probably gonna change.
And not only that, if you don't have the town meeting on the floor, you can't reduce the budget like we have in many years.
we have, and sometimes we've had to say, let's table this one and come back to it because now we've exceeded LD1 and where are we gonna pull those funds from? And
I think it's an important thing. I think you four of us as a board need to really, really think about this very seriously about having it on the floor.
So at what point do we need to make the decision?
When we do the budget,
No,
come up with
No,
warrant
not
articles.
February, January
No.
10th. If it's secret ballot, January 10th, I need all my warrant articles.
Okay.
Yeah, we gotta have.
So
all
we
the
need to
warrant
make it by the
articles.
end of the year. by the last meeting in December.
So I would
Or
like
the
to suggest
technically
that,
the first one in.
Yeah.
yeah, I would suggest that we think about it and
Yeah.
then make a decision the first meeting
Now,
in
would-
December.
Would we want to consider doing a monkey survey, survey monkey? A
Survey monkey.
I mean, do we want to do something, some sort of, formal questionnaire to ask people? Do we want to just go around town and ask people informally?
I think that's why we have a board. You guys can make a decision.
Right.
I mean,
We as
it was
citizens
not
of
a
town,
popular decision when we decided to go to all referendum. I heard that around town, that people were upset that we couldn't go to town meeting. But I said then, and I'll say it now, my intention was not by us going to referendum last year entirely, that we were, and the year before, that we were doing away with town meeting.
And my biggest thing is last year's budgetary thing was a mess because we were restricted on time because of the 10th of January. We had to have all the articles. I can tell you right now, you don't have time enough to get everything done by the 10th of January right now. It will not happen. We'll be rushing in here until like we were last year, until midnight, trying to get the budget squared away for the 10th of January.
I need all the secret ballot ones. Anything on secret ballot, I need to have.
Right.
And those usually are fairly easy. We usually put all the petitions,
The special request.
we put all that up, the normal stuff that goes out to secret ballot.
All right, so this was here just for us to start the conversation.
Right.
So I'm gonna request that come back to the board for the first meeting in December.
Yep.
And at that point, we'll need to make a decision, and if it's a hung jury.
And I don't know what happens.
then I
So
don't know what we
my-
do, then
I
there's
guess
no
my
decision
question-
taken.
My question would be to you guys as a board, that's another month away. If you want budgetary stuff to be ready in case you decide to go with the referendum style, I'm basically saying, I don't think you guys got time enough to get your budget done before the 10th. So you guys almost really need to make a decision tonight or the next meeting,
No, we're not going to make a decision
I
tonight.
ain't
I'm
saying
not
tonight,
prepared
but
to
at
make a
least-
decision tonight.
or the next meeting. Because you're not gonna have time to get it, because you gotta schedule, make your guys' schedule for budgetary and more ahead. And you gotta get the budget committee more ahead and all your department heads ahead. You understand what I'm saying?
So why don't we make it then for the November 15th meeting instead of the 1st of December? Because then that also, we make that decision before we have the first before we have our all-day budget meeting on the
Correct.
20th. Which gives us a chance if we do need to tweak anything.
That's my fear, is that it was a mess last year. We all know it was.
Is everybody okay with that if we bring that back to the board on the 15th?
Yes.
We
All
will
right,
not have had our first meeting there, right? The select
No.
board is that Sunday, am I correct?
right.
The budget
meeting's
meeting.
the following
20th.
Sunday, the
Decision would be
20th.
before.
All right, so next we have special requests scheduling. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Okay, that is now open. So here's the skinny. So if an organization submits a petition to the town, the petitions do not have to be into the town until December 1st.
Well, it says the first business day in December. What day is that?
That is December 1st, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, because the 3rd is a Saturday.
Is it the first?
Oh, no, first business day would be the 1st is a Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that would work.
So then it shouldn't take us too long to go through all of the petitions and make sure that they have the correct number of registered voters, which is 225 for each petition. So we have about 9 right now, I believe, that will be petitioning on election day.
So then if we so what has happened in years prior to COVID was that if they submit a petition to the town, we are required to include that petition on the warrant. However, the select board and the budget committee also recommend or don't recommend those budgetary items.
Right.
So the reason that we gave the organizations a platform to come before the board and the budget committees was so that if anybody had questions, they could find out how many folks were serviced in the town by certain organizations, or how much went to administration and how much went to direct care. So there are questions like that. There's an organization in town that requested to do a presentation at a select board meeting, and I was not comfortable allowing one to do a PowerPoint presentation and not offering that to the other folks who come in. So I asked that this be put on the agenda so that we can decide if we want the organizations to do a presentation or if we just want them to submit their petitions. And if we do want them to do a presentation, my thought is that we limit them to no more than 5 minutes per presentation. So that's about 50 minutes if we have 10 organizations, and then there may not be a lot of questions for some of them, but if we allot like an additional, say 20 minutes or so for questions. Is it more prudent to do that at a board meeting and have a slightly skinnier agenda, knowing that about an hour and 15 minutes is going to be taken up by those organizations? Or do we want them to come to one of the budget meetings and do that then? That first one is a long one, that's the 8-hour one. So the only other option is if they come to the select board and the budget committee meeting on December 13th. We have the 13th as budget review with the select board.
Yeah.
I have it on at 5:30,
Yeah,
which is still a pickle for me. I
I mean,
could
it is to me, but I agree because
try to get here for that, but they already let me out early.
You know, where we think we're gonna be
Tuesdays and
cramped for time, I think I'm thinking it would be easier to put it on a select board meeting, try to get a skinny agenda.
Yeah.
And there'll be some people, if I want $1,000 for hospice, they may not be here to make a 5-minute presentation. And I think it's for folks that want to have, maybe increase it or do more than they have before, they would be the ones that would come before. So I can't imagine that all of those 10 people will feel they have to come
Yeah.
if they're not asking for increases.
A
So,
lot, of them, they never have.
yeah,
Yeah, well, if I tell them it makes a difference on the recommendation of the select board and the budget committee as far as.
Yeah,
the
some of them
warrant
still
article.
won't show
Because
up.
that might make
a lot of times they
difference.
used to all show up.
right,
Well, I think we required them to before the petition process, which
Right.
actually the petition process forces it to be on for it without them.
Right.
so for some of those, if they ask for $1,000 every year and they get approved for $1,000 every year, I don't see that they're probably going to be one needing to come.
They may or
before us.
may not.
Yeah,
Right.
but if we could do it, that would just take one piece out of the budget meeting. and
So do you want to do it on the
Uh-huh.
December 6th
I was gonna
select board
say,
meeting?
does that give enough time to make sure that all of the signatures are in that need be?
I
So
can
December
have them done
6th?
before the end of the day,
Okay,
so it would be, see, the 1st is Thursday.
Mhm.
I could have them done. They turn them in anytime that day, we could have them done probably by Friday morning sometime.
Well, some of them
Okay.
will probably turn them in long before that. They get enough.
Probably
They
turn
will.
them- they'll probably
Yeah, they
get them.
will.
Yeah.
Voting on
But
it.
there's, because the policy allows for that
Right.
day.
Right.
Right, so should we notice when the petitions are turned in, should we hand them back something that says your organization is invited to participate
Yeah, I'll give them a letter.
and, you know, come
Give
and
them a
face
letter that
whatever
discourages them
December
from
6th.
coming.
But they should know in advance of December when they
I'll write
turn in.
that down.
They should
It's
know
on
in
tape.
advance-
I'm
in
done.
advance of December 1st, when they turn in their petitions, that they could come and speak the next Thursday, the next Tuesday. That's just.
Well, we can send
but
out a
what
letter
happens
anytime
though-
now.
Right,
Yeah.
but what
Yeah, I mean,
happens though-
it should be in the initial information about the petitions, right? That they would have the opportunity to come to the I should say canopy.
Well, most of them probably.
Most of them
already
already have, because they're
I
gonna
mean,
be.
I'm gonna
at
send
next
them all
week.
on next
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I could just hand them all the letter.
Yeah,
And
they-
okay,
So
So
at
why
least
don't
they have
yeah.
some warning that if they
Yeah.
want to,
So if they want to.
if they want to. make-
December 6th.
December 6th.
Okay.
So
But
would
not that
it be
it's
just a
mandatory.
5-minute presentation, 5-minute and plus 5 minutes for questions, or a 5-minute presentation, and then they have to stick around in case anybody has any questions?
I would say a 5-minute presentation followed up by a minute or so for questions.
Okay.
If there aren't any questions, they're free to
Then they
go.
can leave. Okay.
Run like the wind.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, so that sounds okay to
Okay.
everybody? Do we
Yep.
want to make a motion on it?
So,
No.
detail.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda. Facilities maintenance and.
You notice they're
sexton
all sitting way in the
positions.
back.
Yes. I
We're gonna
do.
move up front.
That's right, move up front, front and center.
So, and I have to say, so first I'll take a motion to open it.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Now it's open for discussion. So I'm not sure where the letters from you gentlemen came from, because I wasn't sure if you were asked to provide a letter for support. So this got on the agenda because I said that we had a facilities maintenance / sexton position. And then when we lost that person, and everybody stepped in to assist, and thank you to everyone who did, again and again and again. That the two positions, that it became separated because we had certain entities in town taking on the facilities maintenance end of it. And we had Mike Kano filling in as interim sexton. So what we have to decide is not the validity of having the positions, but what we have to decide is, do we want to split the positions again moving forward? So they used to be two, so just so you ladies have history, they used to be two separate positions, and the sexton position was an elected position. So what happened with the elected position is there was no governance by the town. And then we had some issues. There were big issues, there were legal issues, but we could not relieve that person of their duties as sexton. And our hands were tied a bit with what we could do for penalties for some of the misbehavior, because it was an elected official and they can only be removed by a petition process.
Oh.
So that person left town, and so then what happened next was we combined the facilities maintenance position, which was a part-time position, and the sexton position, which was a part-time position, to create one full-time position. And Scott Dameron, I believe, was the first one who took that on as both. Now, it was the SIM system was in place at the time, correct?
No.
No, so the SIM system came
The
out,
person left, I did it for 2 years.
you did it for 2
Because I
years,
was asked to help the town, and that's when I was running my business.
okay.
So I did it for 2 years, and then Scott came.
And then Scott came on, and that's when we combined the
That's
two
when
positions.
And that's when we got the Sims. But at that time, we didn't have as many facilities as we
Right.
have now.
Right.
So now you've grown facilities, you've grown more work for facility maintenance. So after Scott left, when the next facility maintenance person came on, we hired a second full-time facility person. That person stayed, and then when that next facility person left, the person took over, and then as it went, that position got cut last year during budgetary time, and that's what I'm talking about, is we were so late, nobody caught that budget, that was one of the things that got cut off the budget, nobody caught that until after it was too late.
So what position? The second facilities maintenance
Right.
person?
Right, so there was 2 people in facility maintenance full-time. And it was split with the transfer station at the time, 2 days and 16 hours a week. But even at that time, it wasn't enough hours. And the sexton position takes so much time that it doesn't give the full-time facility person time to do facilities in that. Because you gotta field phone calls, you gotta, deal with funerals, you gotta deal with monument companies. They thought, I mean, Mike and Tori can speak more on it than I can, but it's just. in
Oh,
that
they're letting
sim
you, you're on a
system-
roll, they're like, go Bruce, go Bruce.
He's doing good. And I don't know a lot about it as far as what's happened in the past, what's happened, to get where we are today. But I know this town is sorely neglected facilities wise,
Yep.
grounds wise, and sextons wise. There's monuments up there that are coming up out of the ground that need to be put back in the ground. There's bushes that need to be cut. There's a stack of paperwork that deep of stuff that still needs to go in that sim system that are just getting lost all the time, more and more. I mean, I've got paperwork. I mean, it was last week I did a burial. You don't know where somebody is. We're just guessing by the brothers. We don't know because it was never put in. I mean, it's severely neglected, and it's sad, honestly, that people don't know what's going on in that cemetery.
So the reason I wanted to pull this forward was that we need to decide, what we need to know, what's in the budget, what's been expended. What do we have available to us for facilities maintenance and the sexton position? And if we want to split the two positions back the way they were previously. So a part-time sexton, and you work about how many hours a week right now, Mike?
Well, I've been averaging around 30. So the reason that I wrote my memo, and I think we're the same, but the reason I wrote mine was Lana asked me to, I think maybe from a question you had. So that's why I submitted that. She submitted it for me to the packet.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if you guys saw this on the agenda and they were like, well, holy crap, we gotta send something in.
No, no.
Phil?
Yeah, another thing that's not being recognized either, these facility maintenance and sexton, he is on call on weekends. And because we don't have two people, he is on call during the summer a lot. And it takes up all his weekend time. And if we had two, they could swap back and forth.
Swap the responsibilities for weekends.
For burials. 'Cause, that takes a lot of time on weekends.
And a lot of times we don't have the, ability to say yes or no to a funeral home or a family that's dealing with a funeral home. If they want a burial on Saturday, they're trying to shy away from doing the ones on Sundays. But it still takes up time. So every time you have a burial, whether it's, a simple burial with just a family, you're still tying up a couple of hours, okay, on a weekend. Not that we mind working weekends. If it's a full burial or what have you, it takes longer. By the time you deal with the.
So are you proposing 2 full-time facilities plus a half-time sexton?
No,
No.
No.
I myself would think the best, would 2 full-time maintenance people be great? Yes. Is it expected right at the moment? I think it should be a full-time facilities maintenance and a full-time sexton. Because then in the winter, if the sexton is available to help plowing or something like that, shoveling snow, so be it. Or vice versa, in the summer, I would be available, or whoever would be available to help with burials. There is just so much to do in the sexton's position. And it's a given that there's a ton of stuff with the maintenance position from all aspects of this town. But the sexton definitely is a full-time position to get, even to maintain, not even catch up.
And some places define full-time starting at 30 hours. You're talking a 40-hour position.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it would be maintenance would have a full-time and a part-time and then an extra mower. Is that what you do in the summer? I'm just trying to figure out.
We've got four extra people that mow Wesley. I've got Robert, and then during the summer, there's a couple more, even
Okay,
Part-time.
part-time people, all part-time.
just, so you're really talking a full-time and a part-time year-round. Plus a full-time sexton.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, I just trying to figure it out, so.
When do we close the cemetery?
November 15th, we're closing it, right?
Yeah.
November 15th.
To vehicular traffic. So,
What about burials?
well,
A lot of towns,
Same.
a lot of towns close them. 'cause
we don't usually
I know
go
for a
like
fact,
that. December
my mother's
5th.
gotta wait till spring now. She's going to Windsor, and they close October 31st.
Really? Really? We can't do a burial after that?
After that, nope.
Depends on the weather.
Yeah, we.
I was gonna say, isn't it weather dependent?
Yeah,
It's
I mean, usually once we get the first freeze, that's the week.
Yeah, well, I was just curious out here, how it worked out here. 'Cause I didn't know, 'cause Windsor, nope, October 31st.
Ideally, 2 full-time maintenance people and full-time sexton. Ideal.
Yeah.
But, realistically, I don't know if we could do that. Could it keep people busy that much? Absolutely. I just took a bunch of pictures of just 2 facilities last week. I just got them on the computer today, and the buildings are just flying. So, there's a lot of stuff to do. Absolutely a ton of stuff to do.
If we end with full-time sexton, I would prefer to have it done under facilities maintenance. So the facilities maintenance supervisors in charge.
So it's, and not make it elected positions. what you're
I
saying.
don't want to.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
so
I
we're not
agree.
electing that ever again.
Yeah, plus I have to go back to the town.
Yeah,
boards for
no.
that anyways.
Yeah.
I'd like to see one person in charge of it. And then they can dedicate, if they're gonna hire somebody full-time specifically for that job, they can dedicate that person to it. And if they don't need them only 30 hours a week, maybe they can use them on another project or
Yeah.
something.
Especially in the winter.
Yeah, in the winter, when things slows down, it's full of snow, they can catch up on paperwork, but they may be able to be used to do some maintenance somewhere else if they want.
So what we would need to figure out from that is how to budget for it, because if we create a full-time position, then that involves benefits and retirement and those other pieces, which of course,
And what
So
is
basically,
the,
you
what
already
is the
have
town
four.
called full-time? If you're 30 hours for the town, are you eligible? for benefits?
Sexton or second
No.
person, right?
right.
So you have to go to 40 hours.
So,
Definitely need for that.
so what I need to know is what we spent by having split the position again. Where are we at? We've got to be somewhat over budget. So what we need is a breakdown on what has been expended so far.
I think she
That's
could
right
put
there.
that in your book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think
Bunch of
Lorna,
money
yeah.
here, pages in the back.
But I guess for me, I need, like, looking at this whole thing, what I need to see is, because there would have been an increase after May 30th, May 31st. Because that's when Mike came in to assist.
But we didn't have a facility maintenance person until September, what did you say?
August 1st.
August first. So we went almost 3
Right.
months with no
Well, that-
facility maintenance at all.
Right,
Right,
because Ken was filling in as facility maintenance.
and then we had Scott Damon coming in and filling in, so we were paying someone else for facilities maintenance.
Right now you can see what you've got right there.
But
I
we
had the
weren't,
most
we
hours
certainly
ever,
weren't
so.
paying Michael what we would be paying a regular full-time person, correct? If we had someone with benefits, I mean, we're doing benefits for retirement.
Retirement wage.
Yeah.
You're in the hole in the cemetery with personnel. Negative 55.
Yeah,
I mean, overall, if you look at everything, but if you look at the personnel, you're in the hole.
right.
Right, but that, where are we on personnel in facilities?
You're at 18,946. Because general is the person, that is the wage, so that's the balance there. That's how I'm reading it right now.
This
You
is
have-
something
you
that
have
we
that,
can work
don't
out.
you?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
We don't have to
look like
set
it.
right
It's
now.
by
No,
those two.
we just need to have it. and look at it.
Right,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, so we just need a budget. I think.
That's the
Right.
person
Yeah.
now.
We just need, when we get into budget, and I'm sure they're going to, it'll be in when they present their budget.
well, and we
Yeah, but
need
Roland,
to
you look at
decide, do
transfer
we keep
station,
them as
that's
two
probably
separate
what the last-
positions? Because we only decided to split the position
You see
out of
that?
necessity.
I'm not sure.
I wouldn't,
Transfer
I wouldn't
station's
keep
not
them
even
as two
close.
separate positions.
So I think by the transfer station is
Corey,
in that general.
Facilities maintenance and Sexton,
I don't think so. That's
in
not
charge,
the way
and whoever he
it's not the way
assigns,
it's,
hire somebody, and have him assigned to do the Sexton's duties. Overall, Corey or
it's
somebody
not
should
like
be
that.
in charge, so that you don't have two different people trying to do it two different ways, you know. You need somebody who's gonna be in charge.
Right.
Is
I
that your
agree with Dan.
proposal, that it be a combined position, facilities manager is the
Right,
section?
the facilities manager would be the boss of the sexton. And that's how we discussed it in our meeting, too, the same way.
Keep in mind the sexton is by state statute.
Right, I was just gonna say, and the
Sexton is
sexton is
Is an
also,
individual position that is by state statute.
and they have to be appointed. So they're
Okay.
hired
We
and then
could still,
appointed.
we could still have our facilities maintenance supervisor oversee it.
Right.
Correct.
So I guess what we need is, what does it look like on paper for the budget? And we're 5,500 in the hole now for personnel for
For
cemeteries.
cemeteries.
So that's not gonna get better before the end of the year. So,
Which I guess I got a question on the personnel on that, because we haven't budgeted anything. When the previous town manager was here, he took the personnel out of the cemeteries and put it all to facility maintenance. So I guess I'm questioning how we have any numbers at all in personnel for cemeteries.
unless
So you
that's where
have
the
negative.
sexton is in
Yeah.
the,
I
by
have
splitting
no
off the position. If
Yeah,
that,
he's still, right, he's still.
Probably
in
because
that.
that's what you were paying Mike, so that's why it's showing as.
Yeah,
right, it's
Yeah,
showing
it's
as a
should
debit.
be- Mike's pay should have been coming out, yeah, Mike's pay should have been coming out facilities.
Oh, the facilities piece, because you didn't budget it
Because it's not
separately.
been
Yeah.
budgeted for.
right.
Yeah,
Remember last year,
We'll let
you were
Nick
saying
know.
it's too complicated to try to split the hours, and put it all into one.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm glad I brought this up because I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, wait a minute. If we move this forward and budget for two positions, we
So-
haven't decided to keep it as two positions.
Right. So I think Nick will have that ready by tomorrow or Thursday, I can't remember which.
We'll have what ready?
He's already doing the analysis on this, the budget committee asked him to. So he may have the figures by the week's end.
Oh, so you guys were already on this before I was.
It was brought up at the budget committee, yes.
But because I was like, what are we gonna do with this?
Oh, this is gonna be a fun budget season. Oh,
Okay, so Nick should have something out, hopefully by the beginning of next week. And then we can start figuring out how we can move forward. So if we keep you, Mike, you'll stay?
I'm not gonna work for Corey.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow, you would say to that one.
So you would like to be the facilities maintenance director and Corey can work for you? Okay. All right, well there. We done with that one?
I would like to say one thing. Corey is doing a great job. He and I have worked great together, and I would like to put a plug in with the town office staff, because while I was here, they were super duper helpful to me. All of them were, whenever I needed something, because I came in here cold, and they were just awesome. Technology wise, looking up people, addresses, whatever I needed. Nick would come in and help me on the Sims, computer, because I didn't have time to learn it. He would come in and look stuff up for me to try to find locks and so forth. It worked out good. So I just wanted you guys to know that, I had a great experience here and so.
Our staff is kind
And
of.
I enjoyed
lost.
it, I did it back in a couple of years, but I have, it's been fun, but we've had 30 burials this summer, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway. Thank you.
We appreciate that.
I'll let Deb know.
Yeah, please let Evan, Nick and Charlie know,
I will.
because everybody pitched in and
Yeah.
it was great.
Or team.
We're kind of a boss team. I keep saying that over and over again. Okay, moving on. And just so in case you guys decide to fly, there are cards here for the whole Damon family for folks to sign. So they're here, so they're gonna be in the town office until Friday. So that folks can stop in and sign and then we'll send them out. Okay. All right, so RSU 18 cost sharing committee appointments. And do we have a blurb on that?
I just haven't been-
Okay, so let me pull open my thing. So their first meeting is gonna be before our next meeting, so we have to appoint these members.
We could meet on Saturday at 9 o'clock.
So, okay, so I would like to make a motion to appoint Jack Sutton, Scott Ferguson, and Sarah Langette as the 3 members of the for Belgrade to the RSU 18 cost sharing committee. It was moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. And those that are on, thank you so much for agreeing to do that. I know it's a short stint, but it's very important. So we appreciate that. All right, next up, we have the warrants.
We should do this. I just think we should pass the whole thing of the warrant over.
So is there separate ones with the BMV ones, or are they all right there?
There are.
17.
So, and I also have another one, which is our monthly payables, which would be vital records, IFW, and the dogs.
Barbara, can you take over for a minute? My daughter's calling and she doesn't usually call. She's not- Just want to find out about it.
Or do you have your totals?
Is 117 the first one? That's what I was looking
I have 123,
at. 117 and then 120, 122 and 123.
117.
And then our regular is 124.
Are you reading? Oh,
I'm just looking at the warrant.
Yeah, they're
numbers.
not, we want to put them.
they're not in order.
No, but that's what I was gonna suggest. We put them on.
I don't even have
117 is
117.
There is a 117.
There's a
It's
117
the payroll warrant.
payroll warrant.
10 and 12.
I don't even have.
But didn't we already do?
Oh, wait a
No,
second.
10, 12 would have been after the last meeting.
No, it was before the last meeting was
Yeah, we
on.
gotta put these in our books in order.
Oh, but we didn't have, maybe we didn't have the copy of the warrant in our book. I don't know.
120.
It's in our book this week, so I assume that meant we hadn't.
I have.
approved it.
So I don't know what you
They are
guys have.
not
I have
in order.
117, then I jumped to 120, 122, 123, and 124.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what we.
So 18 and 19 are what? So we should have warrant 118 and warrant 119.
I think we maybe had, remember last week we had some and we were missing one. I'm wondering if
we go through that
117
again.
So All right, so your first one should be warrant 117.
Right, 117,
Okay.
which is the payroll warrant from
Right,
10,
so
12.
you want to just do that first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were still doing it, so I was like.
No, go
waiting.
right
You're
ahead.
back.
Okay, so
You're back,
first up
you're
is
here.
warrant number 117, payroll warrant, total amount of $18,586.36. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? There's no discussion. Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes,
Carol.
Yes,
All right, 4 yeses. Next up, we have payroll warrant 120 in the amount of $16,815.68.
so moved.
second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
yes,
Carol.
Yes,
All right, 4 yeses. We can just find out what 118 and 119 are. That'd be awesome. What are those warrants?
So we keep them on orders, they must be out there. I don't know
are
what
they in that file, in the
No,
gray file?
no,
No.
no, because that gray file is all the AP warrant.
One of them may have been one we were looking for.
I don't know why
Actually, we
these
had
are all
last time,
messed up
because this
like
one may have
this.
been the one that we didn't get.
I just give you the whole folder.
118 and 119 we approved last week.
Right, okay, that's like that. I think
Okay, so
sometimes they-
117 is the outlier.
Right.
Right, that was the outlier, yeah.
Okay,
This is
okay.
a payroll one.
And it
So we're
looks
good.
like we
So we're
did
good.
120 and 121,
So do we
so
just
now
do-
we're doing 120.
Why did somebody payroll warrants?
I don't know, but I'm going back to
Yeah, so 120 and 121.
120 and 120. We did, I don't know, warrant 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 we did last meeting. According to the minutes,
So 120, we don't need to
We did
do.
117.
what it says.
Oh,
Yeah,
so-
these are weird because these are like 10, 12, and 10, 19.
I know, why?
So we shouldn't, so if we already approved 117,
We double approved it
we
now,
double approved.
I don't know,
We
I only
super
have one
approved.
signature on them, so.
because that means
I know.
we just come in, either Barbara or I come in and sign
We
on
come in and
Mondays.
sign them on Mondays.
It doesn't have to have everyone's signature,
The payroll.
just has to have one
Because this
person.
is the one where Lorna said we were being illegal by having the town manager sign it, so we have to have one of the municipal board members sign.
So
that
we
way
really, it's 122 we should start with next.
Right,
Because
that's
Because
what I
that wasn't
have.
on last
So
week.
cancel 117.
All right. So warrant number 122. Well, this is a weird one, because all there is
Backup
there's no
documentation.
documentation for it. It just has
I think it ran over into another page.
a total payroll of 17,643.84. So it's page 2, but we don't have page 1.
Details, details.
Details are nice if we're required to
It should,
approve
it should
these.
be in that file, though. They
No,
should have
it's
the
not.
total warrant.
No,
No.
Nick only gave me the signature pages. So, and the way it ran over, you're not gonna see it all, because it ran onto page 2. I mean, I can go pull all those warrants, I gotta grab the key and unlock it. and pull
Yeah,
all
it
the
should be.
warrants.
It should only be one.
Yeah, it should be a payroll warrant, and it looks like it's reflective. It's a slight increase over this one that was 17,232. This one is 17,643. So the total payroll, okay, so warrant number 122 in the amount of $17,643.84. I'll make that motion.
Second,
Moved and seconded. If there's no discussion, Barbara,
Yes,
Carol,
yes,
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Next, we have the AP warrant 123. This is for the BMV report and for the new ACO training. Warrant total is $5,357.67. I make that motion.
second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Barbara,
yes,
Carol,
yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses.
All right, so there's that one.
Now we're.
Now
124.
we're at warrant number 124. And I'll make a motion that we open that item.
So, a second.
Been moved and seconded. Now it's open for discussion.
I don't think I have any.
So Corey, under central main equipment, the sander parts, So the $165.37, we just bought that sander last year. Is this something that's not covered under warranty?
It's just wear and tear damage. It was stored improperly. Everything was frozen up. So the carburetor, I rebuilt the carburetor, changed plugs, just basic stuff. Fuel line, new fuel filters. And today I took it apart more now that I've got the motor running. So tomorrow I'll be going picking up $200 worth of parts to rebuild the tail end of it because it is rusted out and the pulleys are shot. They didn't get
Okay,
washed. Didn't get washed.
So the brand new one that we just bought,
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what year it is. If it was last
it was
year.
just last year.
We have more than one though.
We have
We
two.
have
yeah.
two.
One is total junk.
So the other one's the new one.
And
So
the one that
how
is
special is
there
the
is the
new
newer
one?
one, which was left
And that would be
stored
covered up.
And is it
outside.
stainless steel or poly?
It's stainless, but the
Okay.
stainless is fine. It's the rest of the stuff that is.
Not
Not stainless steel.
Right,
And that won't be covered up in warranty.
No.
Oh, no.
right.
It's a ton of that.
And then
At some
I
point.
do
this will-
have the bed chain freed up. Hopefully it continues to be good. If not, that's another $560 for a bed chain.
So keep a check on and if it behooves us to purchase a poly one.
I think we should think of a poly one, a small version poly one.
Like a 1.5 yard.
Yes, yeah. For the 3/4 ton truck, because that sander is too big. And for us to be with only one sander,
Last year, we had to hire Ricky to do a lot of sanding.
Right.
Remember, a poly one, it's only still only as good as they maintain. It's still got metal chains and metal gears and metal this and metal that, so.
If it's not washed at the end of the season, they're
It
gonna
should be
rot.
washed, probably should be sprayed with almost like a fluid film type stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
When I used to take care of them at Central Maine Motors, the last thing that they saw was a pressure washer, and then they were oiled completely.
Yeah.
That's.
Okay, so that was
Okay.
my
We should have
information. I was like, warranty, please. But okay, never mind.
Okay.
That was the only thing that I highlighted. Did anybody else have anything else?
All right. We take a motion to approve. Are we there?
I just finished going through it for a second. You're okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going through double checking. I think.
All right, so warrant number 124 in the amount of $655,361.92. I'll make that motion.
Second.
So any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. All right, Miss Lorna, you still with us?
Where is that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm taking minutes.
Okay,
I got another BMV warrant
we have another B&B warrant.
and then, well, there's BMV every week.
I thought
Yeah,
we
but
did one.
we had one in here.
Yeah, and that was BMV number 123.
I signed it yesterday, so it wouldn't.
Yeah, and then we have the state payables that are due at the end of every month, so we have 2.
Okay, so did we miss that if we didn't get it done?
I just got this done today, this afternoon.
Okay,
Yes,
This I signed yesterday morning.
and so they're due at the end of the month.
all right. So warrant number 126, BMV warrant in the amount of $9,350.
So moved.
Seconded, moved and seconded. Up for discussion, saying none. Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Do we still need to sign all these, Mary? If there's one signature?
No, we just
No.
need one
No.
signature.
No, and actually you can do a policy. Because there is an LD that was done back in 2009. And you could just do a policy, and it doesn't have to come before the board, that one person can come in for state payables and sign those, unless you want to see all of those every time.
I'd still prefer to see it.
It's up to you.
It's the board.
Okay, warrant number 127. So, and this is Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Treasurer State of Maine and Treasurer State of Maine for AW, $996.75.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Those are good to go.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else want to grab one more signature on that one? All right.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, you got another signature page over there.
Yeah, that's for the AP warrant.
What's that? Okay, so Lorna, we'll have you, do you have your town manager's report there?
Yes, I have it pulled up.
Okay, go ahead and go,
This
mademoiselle.
just goes back to Mary.
So I got a notification for NIMS training, which is the emergency management system. Elected officials need to do that coursework and be certified. I'm not sure if you all have done that previously. Do you remember if you've ever been NIMS certified? National Incident Management?
No, and we have to be certified, why?
Well, when you apply for federal grants, elected officials are supposed to be certified. But I'll get that information. I have them checking to see who at the town level needs to be certified and what course they need to be certified in. It's a fairly simple process. I've done it myself previously. We also had an inquiry about taking over a private lane, the Little Village Lane. So finding out the process for that, I've put the resident who inquired in touch with our road commissioner to go through that process. We received figures to install a phone line. Your last meeting, we discussed the security system for the historical house. Seacoast Security has not provided an updated estimate yet. They do not do standalone systems. We did check for a phone line and the cost. So I've given you the figures with Wi-Fi and without. And the hot topic, Dan, you may know more about this, LD 2003. It's a new law put into place which allows properties to either add one additional structure on the property or in some cases up to 4 in an effort to provide affordable housing in Maine. The law was passed, but not all of the particulars have been ironed out. AvCog hosted a workshop last week, and I'm working with KVCog to see if we can get a workshop set up through them, which will provide information to municipalities. In addition, MMA is working to put together a committee to address some of these concerns, and there will be some public hearings coming up before the end of the year, which are important to attend. to, one, get information, but two, also to voice concerns and ask questions so that when the final decision-making for all of these particular items pertaining to this law, LD 2003, we'll have some input on. I had Elizabeth Caruso contact me today. So I'm also going to work with her. She's part of MMA on this. Another question that may come up, or we should ask, is how this works in connection with the I call it the senior tax freeze law. Because if our senior citizens have submitted their applications for their tax freeze, if they put additional housing on their properties, how does that affect that process? And I'm not sure anyone's really thought that one through just yet. We have purchased the needed items for our new animal control officer, and Corey will tag those with Town of Belgrade and our number so that they don't get lost, or stolen. And I will issue those out to our new ACO so that he will be responsible in the event something happens to any of that equipment. And then at the bottom of my report, I just gave you updated meeting dates and times going forward.
Okay, so Warner, I noticed on here, so the previous interim ACO has not agreed to stay on as primary for the feral cat situation.
I have not had him confirm that he will. He hasn't said one way or the other.
Has he been participating in it since the new ACO was appointed?
I have spoken with him, but he has not confirmed if he will continue. I've also asked him if he would be backup for our new ACO.
Okay. So, but the feral cat situation, is it still being handled or is that on hiatus while we figure this out?
No, Buckfield, the group out of Buckfield is still working on that to capture and either spay or neuter the animals.
We know how many they've captured. I think it was 59 or something at the last meeting.
I don't have an update on how many additional cats. I can check that.
Okay, and then I think we had another question on the last meeting of whether or not if the homeowner requested to keep some of the cats once they had been spayed. Is there any law that prevents that?
I haven't checked that. I didn't know I was supposed to. I obviously missed that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was at the end of our minutes. It was just one of those follow-up kind of questions, like just to make sure, because the homeowner wanted to keep 8.
I'll check that with the state.
Because right now, if the state's not involved, I don't even think you can make them have to stay or neuter. There's no state court order.
Is the state not involved, Lorna?
No, the state is not involved.
I thought there was something about they wanted to keep 8 cats or something.
Right.
And we were in the last meeting, we said, well, we don't have a problem keeping them as long as they had it fixed.
Had the, right.
But I don't think we can require that.
Mhm.
Because there's no state action against this person.
Oh. Mhm.
So I don't think we can require them to do that.
All right, well, good luck, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, so this could rear its ugly
They could.
head again. Okay.
There's 4 of them.
And as far as that LD, that 2003, that law's a mess. Even a lot of the cities wanted nothing to do with that. They got pushed through. I know I voted against it. I'm hoping there's enough people in the legislature that may end up going away, but I don't know what'll happen.
It's not good.
They didn't really think it through.
Well, it was a bunch of housing lawyers And some legislators that were housing lawyers for the indigent in southern Maine that pushed this through. So, yeah, it's not a good law, but I don't know what's gonna happen with it.
Okay.
I have a question about the second item about the town possibly taking over a private road. Is there? We must have policies on that.
So there's a process in place. So when I don't know, Lauren, if you just mentioned it to me. But the person had approached the town. So what I let Lorna know is that there is a process for the town taking over a road. And the first part of that process is that the road commissioner needs to go and do an inspection of the road and be certain that the road that was built for a private road actually meets town specifications for a
yeah.
town road.
Right.
And then we
There's-
decide if it does, and if it does not meet the state, if it does not meet the town's requirements, then the onus to bring the road up to town specs is on the owners of the road currently.
Right.
And it's their expense, and there's no guarantee that if they expend the money, that the legislative body will agree to take over the maintenance of that
Well,
road.
I think they have to petition it too. There's a
And they
whole
do-
process.
They
There's
do have to
several
petition
pages.
it too,
They have
but
to
the first part
petition
of
it
that
too.
is whether it's even one that would be
Yeah,
open to
would be.
consideration.
Yeah.
So I did recommend to Lorna that Jason go over and take a look. Morris worked with us through several other ones, and if he wanted to reach out to Morris for a little extra guidance on that, you know, that he has somebody who's been through the process. So it won't be on this warrant. But maybe in 2020, maybe the following, 2024. But there's usually several steps in that process.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce?
And I think you look back, and I don't know if it's a planning board thing, but I believe for a private road to be accepted as a town road or get referred to a voters, it has to be inspected by the road commissioner during construction. Which if that wasn't done, inspected during construction, then it's not acceptable. I believe that's how it's worded in
We
there.
have a road, yeah, we have a road ordinance, plus we have that policy in place, so there's like a two-part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should take a look at that and see if that is the case.
Because
Because I
after,
know, well,
after
Denise
east west, I
West,
can't remember what
That
happened.
was the last big
right.
go around we had was east-west lane.
Yeah, and I only one.
Split the road.
And
Yeah,
well,
but yeah,
and
people like it.
initially they built the road with the intention of asking the town to take it over. So Morris was involved right from the beginning with that.
Right.
I think Kevin built this road. Kevin Hawes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we just refer that back to the roads committee to look at?
No, the road commission,
The
not
road
the roads
commission.
They won't
committee.
have anything to do with it.
No, so what he will do, it's not up to the road commissioner to investigate the creation of the road or what materials were used. So it may be, you know, it may be a moot
Mute point, yeah.
Right.
We'll
And
just
cool.
pull out the paperwork,
Yeah,
what has to be done. I
yeah,
think that's
this is
simple,
the
and then
policy and,
that way
and
everybody knows.
yeah, and if we send that out to the board, just, you know, that's part of having some of us old crones here, been here a couple times. Now,
That's what-
Corey,
that's what-
you referenced something about a culvert that was clogged, or a culvert that there was an issue. Is that the one that the road commissioner was dealing with, or is that?
Yeah, all good.
So why did you go and do the inspection on it?
I was just over there and we had talked to Jason and I had talked about it. So I was just over that way and I just picked it and I know Lorna had brought it up once. So I just wanted her to know.
Okay, because I just wanted to be sure that we didn't have a facilities
Oh,
maintenance
no.
person who was stepping on the road commissioner's toes.
You.
Okay, I was like, well, I
Absolutely
was like,
not.
did somebody ask you to go do that?
Nope, I
Okay,
was coming back from the dump and I just went that way because Jason and I had talked about it and that was all it was.
okay, because I was like, is there a town culvert that's clogged up I don't know about? Okay, There probably is, but
Probably someplace.
there's a beaver somewhere creating havoc. I'm certain of it.
What's that?
Knows what's being a from habit.
The other thing when it comes to taking over roads too, I still think we need to discuss it. I'm still in favor of putting through an ordinance at some point that says town won't take over a road that doesn't have an ingress and an
And an
egress on the
egress.
other end.
Right.
Because when you have a road that only has one way in and the same way out, the general population isn't gonna use that road, but they're paying the taxes on it to maintain.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That was the big fight we had over east-west lane. which
Oh my
was-
gosh,
Oh.
they split the road.
it's- yeah, we had-
One, if the moderator had voted, it would have been turned down.
Yeah.
If the moderator had voted,
Oh,
that
yeah.
would have never passed.
Isn't that where they line people up on each side?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
everybody was like, there was like
Yeah.
300 people there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ones where you need the in-person town meeting.
Right.
Stuff like that's going on.
All right, well, if nobody has anything else.
Okay, I just have, it's just informational. So the senior resource committee, we're gonna have like a little cookie thing for seniors up there in December 10th. But I also want to let you know, we're looking to decorate the Christmas tree up there outside. So we thought it would be nice, it would be festive. And Corey thinks we have a receptacle outside that,
Yes. there is.
okay. And
For you guys to
secondly,
use.
there are two of us on that senior resource committee that were part of the original Board of Parks and Recs in 1996, when we bought the first town Christmas tree. And we have had repeated requests to decorate that tree, which is in the ball field. I don't know, Nick says he's not paying for the ball field electric bill. So I'm in touch with Aaron Plesky, but we're gonna look to decorate that tree. So I just wanted to let you know, we've had seniors in the past. Verna Hammond used to come and say how she enjoyed looking through the field and seeing that tree lit up. Or
Mhm.
we have people that say they came home from work and how they enjoyed driving home from work on 27 and seeing that tree lit up.
Well, it used to be the town.
It is
Christmas
the
tree.
town Christmas
So it
tree,
was the town
and it was
Christmas tree
donated and
and-
dedicated to Ken Workman. And there are a lot of things going on in the village, and it's nice just that we all celebrate in that season and in all areas of town.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and in that vein, Mary, are we doing the collection in the town office again this year for Beckett?
Yeah, we can. I hadn't even thought about that yet, but we probably should be.
And the other thing, well, I'm
Tis the
thinking of it
season.
too, are we all set with budgeting for the wreaths that we buy, put up everywhere? So normally we end up having to vote up for those last minute. You do.
Right,
Wasn't that approved
What do
in
you
the
mean,
budget
the
last
raise?
year?
Did we
I
put
don't know.
it in the
I
budget?
don't
think
know.
so.
That's why I just want to make sure so that we aren't last minute trying to scramble.
right.
I think, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it was
I think
in
it
the
was
budget.
approved in the
It
budget.
it may have.
All right.
It's just one thing to check on, just to
But
make
we
sure.
need to, on that note, we did something, I don't know how we did it, but we got a bill from Bob Fisher for the wreaths ahead of time and had the, so that we could pay him when they were picked up. So that should probably be, however we work that out for
How
the
far
next
ahead
meeting.
did
And
we
did
have
we
to order
keep-
those?
And we kept the bows and everything from last year, correct? Because they were all purchased and there was a big thing about they
Well-
had to look the same. So they were, the bows and stuff were being purchased from Longfellow's and we had asked if they were keeping them to be used this year.
The bows that were used in the village last year were paid for by the business group, and they have those bows. I don't know about the
I
ones.
think we
for-
have some bows.
I don't
'Cause
know
think
who took them
Anthony-
down.
I think Anthony got those bows. So
He
I
did.
think that.
Yeah, he bought the wrong color, but he bought the bows. But I don't know who took those down.
And I just have one more thing. Peter Rushton was in from the planning board and he asked if there were any efforts to hire a secretary. I think Hans is doing a lot of work. It's absorbing some time.
So, yeah.
And
'cause
they
the
need a
one that-
secretary.
the
They
one that
need
we
somebody
had
that,
fell off.
because Also, Sarah, it's hard for Sarah to participate in the meeting and he needs her as an active participant, so. And I'm gonna send that off to Lorna, talk to Lorna about it, see what we can do,
Yeah,
but
we can
they
put
don't have a
something on the
secretary
Facebook
right now.
page and maybe on the town website, and if anybody,
we
because they
tried
could
it,
watch the
nobody-
meeting and then do the minutes from watching the meetings. Although was it the last meeting that I watched? This meeting owl was glitching so badly that I shut the meeting off because I
Yeah.
couldn't stand it.
This board
Done that
meeting was a
before.
couple
Oh,
meetings
it's
ago too. This
terrible.
board meeting was because Nick said it got moved too far away. It can't have, it can't be moved too far away.
Yeah, I was like, I was almost gonna come down and try
He
to
does
plug the
like
wires in
this. I
tighter.
know,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
just
that process,
flashing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I couldn't do it. So that might be tricky, but if we can find someone who's willing to, and what we pay, $15 an hour?
You are not gonna find anybody to do it for $15 an hour. We tried and tried and tried. We're paying, the last person that we hired was at least 20. And she only, I don't even think she did one set of minutes.
Would there be anyone out at the high school and some of the business courses or anything that, Is that a possibility?
We could try.
I'm just
Yes.
thinking,
That's we could try.
Yeah,
Like
we gotta-
KVCC.
okay,
Yeah, we gotta just
yeah,
cast our, we gotta cast our net, because we do need to get them
Well,
some.
and hers
take
is taking
minutes.
a lot of time having to put the packets together. Honestly, we had a super fantastic planning board secretary, which was Karen Knox. And she recently retired. I tried to get her back because she came in, she did all the packets, she did all the minutes, she showed up in person. And she worked for the planning board for years and years and years. However, the state is contracting her, so she's not interested in contracting her part-time after she retired. See what we can do.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yay,
No discussion on that one?
okay.
All right, so these will be here in the town office if anyone would like to sign them. And then we're gonna go.
Everyone scan, make request photos.
These are all signed. Oh, right, we were gonna,
I think this was your.
They're getting cut.
With Melanie's pen.
so we'd like some cushy seats.
Oh,
We'd like better seats for these long meetings. This one.
Sarah,
Nice to meet you.
messenger
Oh,
request.
yeah.
I have a
Thank you,
call
guys.
today.
Good night.
good night, hope you feel better.
Thank you, ma'am.
Name on 242.
Oh, we have to end the meeting.
Oh,
my gosh.
and then leave, yeah, we could have people on
No, I do
forever.
not have Judy Johnson.